Brad, I didn't expect it, but I had a single drop of water completely change my day today. A single drop of
Just
water.
a drop.
Just a drop.
Okay.
Can I explain to you what happened, my friend?
Yes.
So, okay, as we all know, humans walk upright, and as a result, we have this gluteus maximus, these butt cheeks that are on our backside to keep us upright versus an ape, right?
Yes.
When they're pronounced. And the reason why I say that is this is not particular to me, Brad. Every human has gluteus maximus muscles.
Everyone's got a tushy.
Yeah, everyone's got a tush. Everybody poops, as they say. But anyway, the human belt on pants, when you bend over, what it creates is a certain negative space at the back. No matter who you are, with the right pants, the right belt, the gluteus maximus creates this tiny little space. And the physics are small. It can be small, it can be nothing.
Right.
But Brad, I'm out watering my flowers this morning, and I hit my orange tree, and there was like this spider web forming, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to knock the spider web off with my hose, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you see where this is going. I then go to lean over to pluck a dead flower out of the bed. And Brad, a single drop of water found its way, Brad, between the unique physics of the belt, the cheeks. Brad, I woke up immediately woke up.
I noticed you were charged up when you got into the podcast booth today.
My day took a 180. I was having a calm, quiet, contemplative morning.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about a philosopher that I read. And then after that, I feel, Brad, I'm walking around, I feel unsafe.
Yeah.
I feel like this single drop of water has violated me. It was eye-opening. It was eye-opening what this single drop of water did to me.
Need coffee anymore. You woke right up.
It woke me right up,
Yeah.
and I'm moving now. You can probably
Yeah.
see I'm charged. I'm charged about my day.
Yeah.
So, Brad, there's no answer to this. There's no... But the causal series of events started 40,000 years ago when we started walking upright, I guess. I don't know. When did we start walking upright? 400,000 years ago, I guess, right?
Yeah, it would give or take, yeah.
I don't remember when we started walking upright.
I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Now I know why my plumber always looks so alert.
They don't need coffee.
Yeah.
They pass the savings on to you.
Yeah, no kidding.
That $6 Starbucks, they're like, no, sir, ma'am, I don't need that. I'll just need a single drop of water.
Oof. Yeah, well-placed drop of water will do wonders.
That's all it was a single drop of water. It was a single drop of water. Because you don't wait around for number two, I'll tell you that. You get moving. You get moving.
So to speak, yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to say hello, everybody, and welcome to Comic Lab, the eye-opening show about making comics.
And the drip, drip, drip of making a living from comics. I'm Brad Geiger, the author of the Webcomics Handbook and the creator of Evil Inc.
Oh, wow. I love to hear that emphasis on that. That was great.
Yeah.
I'm his pal, Dave Kellett, eye-opening cartoonist of Drive and Sheldon, and slightly shocked co-director of Stripped.
And this week's Hour of Comics Advice is made possible by your support at patreon.com/comiclab. So Dave, let's talk comics.
Let's talk comics, my friend. We've got a big show for everybody today, and this is a fun topic that we're going to start off with, which is Brad's bringing onto the show. He has been talking about this recently and pitched me on it this morning, and I was fascinated. So, Brad, I'm passing over the mic to you. Take us through it, my friend.
Well, so it all started when every now and again on Blue Sky, I've been trying to kind of up my activity there since, again, I do think this is kind of a special time for Blue Sky. And I don't want to let grass grow under my feet. And I post these little conversation starters throughout the day. And I had posted a conversation starter that was something like, show me your recent panel or something like that. And somebody came into my comments and showed me the panel and said, and this can be seen on my Kickstarter, which is happening here. Or it was either Kickstarter or Patreon, and dropped a link. And I sat there looking at it with kind of a visceral, reaction.
Would you say almost a single drop of water reaction, Brad?
It was a single drop of water reaction. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And I'm like, okay, what bugs you about that? Because obviously I don't care about people promoting. I encourage people to promote. But what this person falls into the category for me is one of these guys or one of these people that always refer to themselves as a shameless self-promoter. Right. Brad, I'm a shameless self-promoter. I'm a shameless. Don't
Sure.
you know the exact type of person I'm talking about there, right?
Yep.
That person that refers to himself as shameless self-promoter. And I started to think, I think we need to bring a little bit of shame back into self-promotion. just a little bit.
Just a nudge of, okay.
And so I'm like, I should talk about this on the show. And then I thought, well, is that counterproductive? Because I know listening in the audience from what they write in and what they discuss on the Discord server and stuff, I know that a big portion of our audience is timid to promote.
Yes.
They're scared to promote. They don't know when to promote. They don't know how to promote. They don't feel as if they should promote. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that we could actually help both sides of this spectrum with one conversation.
Okay, great. Because here's the problem with this kind of thing is that I find, do you find this as a parent where you're sitting around the dinner table and you tell one kid, you're trying to give a lesson to one kid and you're saying like, listen, you need to work a little harder in school. And the one that's actually overworking in school internalizes it and like works even harder. You're like, no, I need you to relax a little bit. It's your sibling that needs to work a little harder. And so like, I feel like if you can find a way to thread this needle, because it's hard to tell the shameless over promoters to tone it down a little bit and at the same time tell the timid folks, listen, it's okay to be proud of your work and to share it when necessary and when appropriate. So if you can find a way to thread this needle, go with God.
I've been thinking about it all week. And it comes and also here's the other, just to make sure that I'm communicating clearly. If you're somebody that falls into the shameless self-promoter type, right?
Right.
It's not that I begrudge you promotion or anything like that. In fact, like I said, I'm a heavy promotion guy. In fact, the whole reason I'm doing this extra stuff on Blue Sky falls under the heading of promotion at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially like when you consider the fact that we do this podcast together. I've got the webcomics handbook. So when I'm posting certain sorts of things that are talking about the craft and the life of a cartoonist, it really comes back to promoting those things for me. So I'm a heavy promoter. I'm an exuberant, enthusiastic promoter. But the reason that this grinds me is that when I do promotion, I'm looking for eyeballs. I want to get more eyeballs. And when it's done wrong, you get eye rolls, right? When you're jumping into somebody else's comments and you're putting your Patreon URL down there, you're not getting eyeballs, you're getting eye rolls. And what I want is I want to help those shameless self-promoters to focus better and get a better return on investment on what they're willing to do. Right. And I also want to encourage those people who are reticent self-promoters, because this is going to help them understand when it's a good idea and when it's not such a good idea to do self-promotion. And it all comes down to this. Whose house are you in? Ooh. If you think when you're about to promote or thinking that you should do promotion, the question is, whose house am I in?
Because whose house are you in? That's an interesting way to phrase it. Okay, what do you mean by that? I think I know where you're going with this. I can't
wait to get into this. If you're in your house, it's okay to promote. In other words, if you're on your social media, putting outward messaging on your social media, that's okay to promote.
Right.
If you're putting together a newsletter, that's your house. That's okay for you to promote. If somebody sends me a DM asking me to back their Kickstarter, a DM, now they're in my house. That's a direct message. That's my house. You can't come into my house and promote. I don't like that. And you'll find many people don't like that, right? We've got a special word for incoming email that is unsolicited to try to get you to buy stuff. That's spam. Yeah. Do you know why we came up with such a degenerate word for that type of email? You're in my house. Right. You're in my email inbox.
This is a great way to think about this. Okay,
you're in my house.
Yeah.
Don't come and so if you think about whose house am I in, it's okay to do promotion in your own house. It's not okay. And this person who had put a comment under my post, he was in my house.
Right.
You can't promote my house. It's not because I begrudge it of you, but because the general acceptance of that, the other people looking in are rolling their eyes over that. Because that's not what that post was supposed to be. In other words, that post was show me a panel that you're proud of. And then when anybody's looking through, they don't see that panel with the Patreon URL saying, oh my gosh, I need to back this person's Patreon. No, they say this person didn't understand the assignment. He's turning an opportunity to share and be part of a community into a opportunity for commercial. And that's not what's supposed to happen. And so they get eye rolls instead of eyeballs, and it's a wasted effort. Why? Because they were in the wrong house.
Yeah.
Think about about whose house are you in? And let me try this one out on you, because I've been thinking about this as a metaphor. Whose house are you in? If I'm a life insurance salesman and you come over to my house, and as we're eating dinner, I say, oh, by the way, I just bring this up. I notice, you had another birthday. How are you set for term life insurance? Now, that might not be, if that's all I talk about the whole night, you're going to say I'm a crushing bore.
Right.
But if that's 5 minutes in the course of a 3-hour dinner, and I just bring it up, and it's just, because I am a life insurance salesman, I just want you to know, if you ever have any needs in that regard, come to your friend, blah, blah. That's not very impolite. In fact, maybe knowing that I was a life insurance salesman, you might have even expected that when you came over for dinner. Now, let's send that life insurance salesperson over to somebody else's house for dinner. Now, Brad, the life insurance salesman, goes to Dave's house for dinner. And as he's sitting there, he turns to another of the dinner guests and says, how you set for term life insurance? That's a completely different situation, because I'm not in my house. I'm at your house. And worse yet, like the guy responding to the comment, I'm trying to sell life insurance to one of your guests. That's impolite plus impolite.
Can I tell you the reason why I like this concept? Because my initial thrust of how to describe this would have been to say, hey, you need to read the room. But you're saying, even one step below that, you need to realize what room you're in, which is it's a different way of saying
what house that room is in.
Yeah, because even, granted, you can have gradations of read the room, absolutely, even within a place that's in your space. That's true. But Brad's saying, before you even read the room, realize what room you're in. Like, if it's not your room, then that's not the time to promote. And I really appreciate this. This is interesting. Yeah.
And I think it works on a broader scale. And again, it's going to help those shameless self-promoters. And I'm going to talk to you shameless people in a minute, because I'm not done here, because I have some real thoughts. Because the first thing is shameless self-promoter. And I know, because it kind of takes one to know one. First thing they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, you throw out 1,000 arrows, and if one of them hits the target, that's fine. That's right. That's that guy that says you got to kiss 1,000 frogs before you find a prince, right? That same kind of thought. And again,
oh, is that what I did wrong? I needed to kiss more frogs, I guess. All right.
You got to kiss a lot more frogs. Trust me.
I stopped at 28, and I got to go more. All right.
Trust me. And somebody who is it frogs that give you warts or toads? Anyway.
I get the joke though. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to come back and talk to that. But it's also helpful for the people who are reticent promoters, because if you're in your house, cut loose. You do all the promotion that you want. Right. But you don't send a DM, because that's it. That you're not in your house when you're sending a DM. You don't send an unsolicited
email. Right. Because that's not your house. Yeah.
And even like every now and again, I'll send an email out to former Patreon backers. But we've got that previous relationship. I'm still kind of in my house there. We got the relationship. I'm not hitting up a stranger. It's nothing like that.
Right.
I have zero problem sending out a newsletter on one platform that says, by the way, I'm doing this other thing on Patreon.
Right.
My house.
Right.
I've got no problems doing the reverse. I've got no problems on my website saying, hey, you should sign up for my newsletter. You know what? My house. Now, let's talk to those shameless self-promoters who really believe these are the people that, go out and any place like a Facebook group that has comics in the title. The NCS had that new social media, immediately got flooded by shameless self-promoters who, again, are not getting good ROI because they're not in their house and they're not getting taken the way they would hope that they would be. let's talk to those shameless self-promoters, because there's you're going to say, well, what should I do? What should I do, Brad? Here's a guy that's used to sending out 1,000 arrows to get a couple of targets, right? What am I supposed to do? Here's the thing. I'm going to argue that in the same way you get a lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And by the way, you're going to need flies if you're going to find more frogs to kiss. So this all works
circle.
into one thing.
This is all a virtuous circle. Yes. Okay.
Yes. But in the same way you get more flies with honey, here's what I want you to do when you're in that situation where you're tempted to put your URL in somebody else's comment thread or do something like that. What I want you to do is I still want you to make that comment, because that's a big part of social media, being social. And that means commenting on other people's stuff, sharing other people's stuff, so on and so forth. But what I want you to do, instead of dropping that URL, I just want you to go in there and be a happy, upbeat, charming member of whatever community that you are taking part in that thread. I just want you to be nice. All I want you to do is be nice. Post your art. Absolutely post your art. Be proud of your art. That's fantastic. And in this particular example, which kicked this all off, that's what I wanted you to do, was to post your art, right?
Right.
But I just want you to be nice and say nice things, be charming, be polite. What's going to happen, I guarantee you, instead of eye rolls, that is going to get you eyeballs, because what's going to happen, you're going to post art that's going to be compelling to, again, 100 arrows. One of those people is going to be compelled by your art. They're going to go over and look at your social media profile. And then if you've listened to Comic Lab's advice and set that profile up right, so it's tell me who you are, tell me what you do, and tell me why I should care, they're going to find ways of keeping in touch with you. You're going to get a follow at that point. You're going to get maybe a newsletter subscription or a free tier Patreon subscription. You're going to gather people just through being a nice, upstanding, polite, kind member of that community. And you didn't have to drop your URL. All you had to do was be nice and compelling and say smart things, and people gravitate to that. It's what some people call the law of attraction, right? And there's something to be said for that. People gravitate to people who are nice and people who say smart things and people who are helpful and stuff like that. You're going to get so much more ROI on that. And if you take all of that energy you're willing to put into shameless self-promotion, plastering your URL every chance you get on everything that has the word comic in it, you're plastering your URL. Instead, if you're focused on doing that in your house and being a friendly, happy, upstanding member of the community elsewhere, I'm telling you, I am convinced you're going to get a better ROI on your actions.
I think this is a great way to construct this and a great way to think about this. That whole idea of whose house are you in is so fundamentally interesting to me because I never thought of that construction before. And so that's really fun to have a new way of thinking about it. But also it's helpful for a lot of situations, not even entirely online. It's also applicable when you're doing a public talk or you're doing a signing or doing this or that, is to recognize the context where you're appearing and how you're appearing. Is this for you? Are you doing this in service for a school? Is this, you know what I mean? Like there are times and places to be the gregarious salesperson, but it's not always the case. And so realizing what house you're in, what room you're in, and then reading the room, that's a really helpful 1-2 punch, you know?
Yeah. Think about how this applies to comic conventions. Whose house are you in?
Yeah, like if I walk up to Brad's booth and Brad is selling and Brad is marketing his comic and he's working, but I'm trying to pitch Brad on some project that I want to get his thoughts on, you know, because I respect Brad's opinion. Great, that's fine. That's not the time because that's not my house, right? That's Brad's house in that moment. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Yes, perfect example.
Not only that, let's have you and I side by side behind our own booths.
Yes.
Somebody comes up to Dave's booth and they're a prospective fan, reader, customer, etc. And they're talking to Dave and they just happen to say something about superheroes, right?
Yes,
if
great example.
I reach over and say, oh, if you're interested in superheroes, and I start talking to that person, That's a big no-no. You find out really quick in comic conventions. That's called poaching, and you'll get put in your place real quick.
But here's the better way for everyone to handle that situation.
Yeah.
If they like superheroes, when and if my business completes with that person, what I need to do as a cartoonist is pay it forward. Say, well, before you go anywhere else, where you need to do is take 2 steps to the left and check out Brad Geiger's work. It cements me with Brad Geiger. It cements me with that reader, because now I'm a trusted source of impartial opinions. It makes Brad's opinion of me better. It makes my opinion of Brad's better. It makes the reader respect us both. It's a much better way of doing it. And as Brad said, people gravitate towards kindness and goodwill. And so they will recognize that in that moment, we're all a little bit capitalist. In that moment, we will all recognize that you have done a kindness in sending someone to the next booth over, or across the hall, or across the aisle. So yes, completely agree with Brad on that.
And now you sent that reader from your house to that other person's house, and now they can do their thing. This is the reason, by the way, just because we both have administered online communities for years and years, like decades.
Administered is such a polite way of saying that, Brad.
Yeah.
In terms of what the chaos can be sometimes on a public message board. Yes.
I chose that word very carefully. But you'll notice the first thing we did when we set up the Comic Lab Discord server was we set up a self-promotion channel.
Yeah.
Where we funneled all of that stuff right over to self-promotion, where it could be contained, where if somebody was interested, they could go and look at that. But I took all of that over, because that way it was kind of, you didn't have to think about whose house am I in. Brad and Dave already told you that's where that stuff goes. And as a result, and it's the first thing we hear when we talk to listeners all the time from Comic Lab who have joined us on Patreon to get that Discord server, first thing they tell us is what a unique opportunity that Discord server is, because they can actually talk shop with people who know what they're talking about. They can get good feedback. It's a great conversation. You know why? I took all that self-promotion, put it over in a channel, and opened up the main channels of communication to be a dedicated house.
Absolutely.
That's the whole reason we did it that way, because, again, a lot of people don't understand the whose house are you in principle. So that's the upshot of what I wanted to talk about today is if you're reticent as a self-promoter, if all you got to do is ask yourself, whose house am I in? Yeah. And then if you're in your house, cut loose, do the promotion. Right. No one's ever going to say boo to you about your promotion because it's in your house, right?
We haven't heard no one's going to say boo to you in a while, and my heart leaps every time.
I decided it was time to bring it back.
It's like a cold drop of water down a crack just to hear everybody say boo to you. That's great. But listen, no, here's the thing too, is that a thing that I'm coming to realize, or at least I'm experimenting with, I should say, on Blue Sky right now, is that not every post that you make on your own house needs to have promotion on it too. Is that, remember, it's sort of an 80-20 rule, is that you can just give people entertainment. And then when it comes time to promote, and you need to promote when it's Patreon or Kickstarter time, that's when you push the button on promotion. There can be a lot of posts, like when Brad does a this date in Evil Inc. history, or this or that kind of posts of sometimes just sharing, just for the sake of sharing, is the base goodwill, is the base friendship, is the base passing forward of your comics. Not everything needs to be a promotional opportunity, even in your own house, is the sort of icing I'm going to put on Brad's cake there.
That's why we have the 4 C's of social media. Commercial is only 1/4 of that.
That's right.
Commercial is just, the rest of it is all that stuff that you're doing that, again, has payoff. Because every time Dave shares a comic, every time he shares a comic from somebody else that he likes, every time he's doing that stuff, he's increasing the chances that eventually somebody says, hey, Dave Kellett, this guy is always in my feed with great stuff. I've got to have more of this. And then they go to that social media profile and they find out, I can sign up for the newsletter. I can sign up on Patreon. That's the whole, let's face it, I'm not sharing this date in Evil Inc. because I'm a great guy. I'm sharing it to get your attention, maybe make you laugh a few times. But the whole upshot is eventually I'm hoping you check out that social media profile. And then that's built to funnel you into the places that I can eventually bring you up a floor in my fan elevator, right? Bring you from the lobby into the first floor. Okay, now you're a subscriber to the newsletter. Bring you from that floor to the next floor. Oh, now you're a Patreon backer, and so on and so forth.
And, remember, too, that like to get someone to jump in on your crowdfunding, they have to be willing to jump into your crowd. And to do that, they need to see the kindness. They need to see the content. They need to see the things that are making their day better. And in those moments, that's not the time to sell. That's not the time to market. That's not the time to be a salesperson. That's the time to give them joy, give them entertainment. And that's how they become a part of your crowd. So absolutely, Brad, great advice.
Oh, do you hear that? That music can only be one thing, and that means that it's time to prepare your chakras and center your vibes, because entering the Comic Lab studio on a radiant beam of self-belief and highly flammable essential oils, it's the one and only Susan MacTaggart.
Bradley John, so good to see you. How are you doing today, Bradley John?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so good to be with you again, Susan.
Oh, it's so lovely to be here. Bradley John, did you know that I have a new book out coming from Penguin Random House in your stores coming soon? Did you know that, Bradley? Did you know I have a new book?
What's the name of this new book?
Oh, Bradley, the book is called Dreams Are the Rough Draft for the Novel of Your Life by Susan MacTaggart. And bookstores everywhere. Random House Publishing. You're going to want to look for that. For all your dreams and hopes, Bradley. For all your dreams and hopes. And Bradley, who do we need to do a little special affirmation for today?
Today, our special personal affirmation is for Sarah Frisk.
Sarah Frisk. Oh, Sarah Frisk, what a great name. K. Sarah. Can I call you Sarah? Can I call you K. Sarah? Okay, Kay, so let's get yourself a little affirmation for today, Kay. Oh, we're going to send this right out to you. And Bradley, wait, before we send this affirmation, I'm looking over at you for the first time and truly seeing you. The Birkenstocks are selling today, Bradley John. They're selling. I've never seen Birkenstocks paired up with hospital compression socks, but you're selling them, Bradley. You're selling them.
Well, unfortunately, the hospital gift shop was selling them too, and they were on special, so that's what I got. Also, they give me 10% off at the sausage place at Reading Terminal Market.
Bradley, you continue to win with your fashion choices. The sausage discount continues to be one of my favorite things that you've ever done. It continues to make me laugh. Oh, it's so ridiculous. Bradley John. Okay, so, Kay, let's turn our attention back to you. Kay, let's turn our attention back to you.
Yes.
Okay, here's your special super affirmation from Susan MacTaggart sending out to you on behalf of Bradley John and the whole team at Patreon.com. So, okay, here's what you need to know, my little sugar plum fairy. You do not need to be great at the start. Okay, you do not need to be great at the start. But you've got to start to be great.
Wow.
That's right, Kay. You've got to start to be great. So start today. Jump right in. And Bradley John, I see you starting with those Birkenstocks. It is selling, my sweetheart, selling. And I will see you next week here at Patreon.com/Comic Lab.
Wow, there she goes, vanishing into a cloud of sandalwood and raw ambition, Susan MacTaggart, with another soul-fortifying affirmation. Thank you so much for reminding us all that success is just a vision board away, assuming you don't get bored with your vision.
Hey, gang, if you're listening while you work, take a minute to stand and stretch.
And while you're doing that, we'll tell you why you should join us on Patreon.
Yeah, because when you do, you'll get hours and hours of podcasts that we've recorded just for backers.
And exclusive Patreon posts that go even deeper on Comic Lab topics.
And you'll get access to our exclusive Discord server, a thriving community of professional cartoonists.
So you can support the show you love and get tons of actionable resources for your own cartooning.
And ho Nelly, if you want even more comics goodness in your life, check out the new drawing show that we're doing with our pal Kevin McShane over at wrongwayshow.com. That's wrongwayshow.com.
In each episode, we'll show you how to draw your favorite cartoon characters the wrong way.
Now, everybody, let's talk comics.
Dave, I can't believe you just missed her again. You
Every week, I walk back in and it's a cloud of perfume and patchouli oil, but I miss her every time. It's the darndest thing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get together at some point, I'm sure. But anyway, so Brad, we've got a huge sponsor that we want to mention for this week's show, and this one comes from the heart because both Brad and I use it on the regular, and that is DreamHost.com.
Absolutely. I've been hosting all of my websites on DreamHost for well over 10 years, and I do it for a really good reason. Not only are they absolutely reasonably, affordably priced, but they've got some of the best support groups, or not support groups. I'm not over there talking about my mom. They've got the best support staff over there in anybody. And I mean, like, I'm comparing them not only to other hosts, but to other platforms I've used. Every time I've had a problem, I've been able to solve it quickly, efficiently, and in a friendly, helpful manner with the people over there in their support team. So I wholeheartedly want you to go over and check out dreamhost.com/comiclab and check out some of those pricing plans they've got for people who are taking Dave and I at our word and saying you need to own and control your own work. We know that starts with the website, and DreamHost knows how to get you started. Take a look at their shared starter plan. First 3 years, you can lock it in at $2.59 a month. Okay.
Bam. You will not get lower than that. That is bonkers good pricing.
No, and then like I know, like somebody asked me, well, yeah, but okay, after that first 3 years, what happens? Well, after the first 3 years, it's $5.99 a month. That's still nothing. Yeah. That's
also, it's 3 years. You tell me something that has like a sort of trial price for 3 years. It's bonkers good.
And so with that $2.59 a month starter pack, you get a website. You can have your domain included with that, unlimited traffic. So they're not going to cut you off if all of a sudden your website gets a whole bunch of traffic. Nope. You got unlimited traffic, WordPress installer, a built-in traffic analytics. In other words, if you're like me and you don't feel comfortable using Google Analytics anymore, people are saying, well, what do you do for analytics? I just open up DreamHost. I got everything that I need right there. I can tell what's going on and get in and get out and I'm done. So I use their traffic analytics all the time. And they've got, and it always cracks me up, a 97-day money-back guarantee.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And here's the thing is you won't need it. And I'll tell you why. I am not the most tech-savvy guy in the world, but here's the great thing about DreamHost.com is that it just works. Yeah. It just works for me, which is what I want. I don't want to be thinking about it as a cartoonist. And so on the rare occasions where I, not they, have messed something up, boy, are they great about hand-holding me through it and getting me back on the road. It's great. So here's what you can do. Head over to dreamhost.com/comiclab. You're going to see a photo of a really handsome Brad Geiger and his less good-looking co-host, Dave Kellett. And you'll know you're on the right page. There's going to be 2 pricing plans. $2.59 a month for the first 3 years or $3.95 for the first 3 years a month. Well, you're not going to beat those prices anywhere. Yeah. It is easy to start. It's easy to use. It is great in terms of customer service. We cannot recommend it enough. Dreamhost.com/comiclab.
Dave, it's time for us to do another patreon.com/comiclab question. This one coming in from one of our backers who asks, in terms of word balloons for dialogue in a comic, and then they specify U.S. comic, not manga, any thoughts or preferences on whether to use an oval balloon versus a rounded corner rectangle? Is there some sort of unspoken rule I haven't discovered yet, or is this really just a personal preference? Any insight is much appreciated. Thanks you both for everything you contribute to the comics world.
I have a lot of, well, first of all, thank you for the kindness, the kind words there. I appreciate that. And I have a lot of thoughts actually about a word balloon and the word balloon usage. So yes, there is a lot to be said about personal preference and about the subjectivity of a word balloon. There's, let's just be honest, a high variety of ways you can make a word balloon, can make a tail, can make the words fit within the word balloon. The question that you're asking specifically, though, about an oval versus a rounded corner square, which Brad has taught us is called a
squircle. There's actually a word for it. It's a squircle. It's a combination of a square and a circle.
It's yes, folks. It sounds like a weird sex move, but it's actually a word balloon.
It sounds like Pokemon After Dark. Squircle, I choose you.
God, I didn't anticipate Pokemon After Dark. That's troubling on a lot of levels. Oh boy, that caught me off
What's
guard.
the Pokemon?
Oh boy, it's an old drop of water down the old shorts is what that is. So here's the thing. So why do people tend to or increasingly lean towards a Squircle? Yeah. So for most of comics history, when you were making a word balloon, you were doing it by hand, right? And so increasingly in around maybe say the 50s, 60s, 70s, what that started to mean was people were using physical guides that were meant for architects to use their to create their word balloons. So you were having people buy these basically plastic sheets that created a bunch of different ellipticals based on different math curves, right? And so you'd have a tighter ellipses, you'll have a wider ellipses, but all of them were sort of circle-based, right? What's happened now in sort of the digital and post-digital world is that you can create these shapes that are a little bit more applicable for how word forms lay out on line breaks. And what that tends to mean is if you're doing it well and you're breaking clauses in a standalone fashion. So the dog runs fast in the mud. The dog, line break, runs fast, line break in the mud. You'll see that each one of those breaks a clause of that sentence, or vaguely a clause of that sentence in a standalone sort of way, right? So that each one could be read independently.
It's a logical break.
It's a logical break. The dog ran fast in the mud. And when you do that and you do it well with your word choice and your line breaking, you try to get it in a centered and squared rectangular shape, which can often be enclosed best in terms of volume by a Squircle. But that doesn't mean you have to do that. You can use either ellipses, or you can use, some people do sort of a googie, bigger on one end, tighter on another end, based on style. But I have in my own work increasingly leaned towards Squircle-esque ellipses, you know, even if they're not Squircles, they're Squircle-esque ellipses, because they do a really good job of encapsulating the most text in a pleasant way with the least amount of impact on the drawn panel, if you know what I mean. They're not covering up a lot of art. Brad, what are your thoughts about the ellipses versus the Squircle or the square? People also do the square. Well, we should mention that. I don't think you should, but people do use the square.
I think they're absolutely vile, but you'll see people doing them. And yes, they were made popular by Mad Magazine, and
and God knows why.
I think it had to do with a pragmatism. I think they were doing typesetting. In other words, I don't think they were doing handletting. I think they were doing typesetting.
They were doing typesetting.
And I think that just made it easier for them to do typeset type and to do mechanical type, paste it in. They had it in a rectangle. Bob's your uncle. It's done. I think it was a means to an end. But I may be on the other side of what Dave's saying a little bit. I'm kind of an oval guy, and I'll tell you why. I think one of the reasons that the Squircle,
I don't know why that made me laugh.
I'm an oval guy, and I'll tell you why.
It sounded like Dave's a Squircle guy and Brad's an oval guy. All right,
the only thing I will take, just to pause, that I finally broke you of the habit of saying speech bubble. You're officially on Team Word Balloon now, and I could not be more happy about it.
I'm trying to say it more because no one seems to be on my level that speech balloon is the better way to say it. So I'm lowering myself to what has clearly been established by the world, which is word balloon.
It's so nice of you to come down here and
I'm deigning to lower myself to everyone's level.
Gathering with the rabble, yes. So
yes, exactly.
I think the rounded circle word balloon became more used as we did more digital lettering, and I've kind of said a version of this in the past, in that every text box, every text tool is basically a rectangle. And so we come to think of our text as fitting into rectangles. And as a result, those rounded corner rectangles seem to be a better fit. The only problem with that is that if you really are breaking those lines at logical pauses, it becomes tougher and tougher to do that in a rounded circle rectangle, because now you might end up with one line that's very long, one line that's a little bit shorter, one line that's long again. The only way to really fit that block of type inside of a rounded circle rectangle is to put the text in a rectangle. And very rarely are the words going to just fall into place just right, so you get those logical breaks.
100%. You're right. And you're right.
So
you're right. And here's what I will say, because I remember that with Sheldon, I hand letter analog, and with Drive, I digitally letter. And here's the way I work, and it's probably similar to the way Brad works. So let's talk about our actual process and how we do and choose a word balloon, right? Because I don't always choose a squircle. I don't always choose an ellipse. And here's why I to Brad's point, here's why I do it. The words will tell you what they need, and the sentence will tell you what it needs. So first you have a sentence like the dog ran fast in the mud, right? So then you break it down clausally, or as close as you can to fully complete thoughts or clauses within the sentence, right? So the dog runs fast in the mud. Now, as you lay that out, if I have a different kind of sentence, I may have breaks that are requiring a much bigger, like if I've got the word disambiguous in the middle of my sentence there, it's going to require a wider word balloon in the middle there than at the top or at the bottom. So once I've chosen my sentences, I've edited as best I can for potency and impact and clarity, right? The writer hat of me is taken off, then the graphic designer hat is put on, and then I start to break out the sentence in a way that makes it logically break as I'm speaking and writing the sentence, right? So then I do that. Then I take that graphic designer hat off, and then I put on my cartoonist hat. And I say, okay, now I need a word balloon that encompasses that with a continuous negative space, a consistent negative space around all the word forms as possible. You want your negative space that's inside the word balloon, but outside the letter word forms. You want that negative space to be as consistent as possible around the word forms. Well, now you're looking at it as a cartoonist going, okay, what shape encompasses this word form, this sentence that I've broken up, with as consistent a negative space around as possible? Sometimes that's going to be a squircle. Sometimes that's going to be an ellipsis. Sometimes it'll be some kind of weird shape, and then you have to like either break up the sentence or something else. What I'm getting at, though, is that you kind of wear three different hats through the process. First, it's writer, then it's graphic designer, then it's cartoonist. And then the final stage of this is once you have the form of the word balloon around the word forms, right? You've got that done. Now you put on a fourth hat of the cartoonist layout designer, where you go, where can I put this in the panel so that it's competing with the least amount of stuff and doesn't impede the clarity of what I'm trying to communicate through what I'm drawing? So it's actually a very hard, high-level thinking process of how to break up a sentence, how to enclose that sentence in a word balloon, and where to place that word balloon. Don't you think, Brad? It's not an easy process.
No, I mean, we said this on the deep dive on lettering not too long ago, is that lettering is the first thing we tackle on the page, and it's the last thing we check before we hit the publish button. And that's how important that this is. My process...
And takes up a huge chunk of time of actually laying out a comic strip or a comics page.
And if you're just drawing a rectangle and either copy and pasting that type in there or typing it however it fits in the rectangle, I guarantee you're making some mistakes in the readability of your comic. And again, I know nobody wants to talk about the readability of your comic, but here's the deal. You are trying to weave a magic spell as a cartoonist, as a comic artist. You're trying to weave a magic spell over your writer or your reader who has a lot of distractions, lots of distractions. And you're trying to weave a magic spell. And lettering is your first line of defense for doing that. And making that read very clearly, making sure that it reads in the right rhythm with the right emphasis and so forth. That's your first step. And that's why I do something that I don't think I can ever get anybody to take me seriously. Nobody wants to do this. I'm telling you, it's improved my lettering 100%. I might do, most of my ideation is on paper. Sometimes I bring it into a digital Google Doc, especially if I'm worried about spelling because my spelling's horrendous. Sometimes I'll bring it in there. So even if I am copying and pasting, or have the ability to copy and paste, I should say, I don't. I type manually every word balloon, word by word, and I put the hard returns in manually. So when I'm saying,
me too,
the Queen, hard return, walked into hard return, the palace, period. I'm not letting those words break wherever they want. I'm certainly not going to do a hyphenation. I don't know what. We didn't talk about that on the.
No, we didn't. I don't use hyphenation.
Never.
I either rewrite a sentence or I change my diction, my word choices in the sentence. Because some people are okay with it. I'm not okay with hyphenate because, as Brad said, you're trying to weave a spell, and as soon as the reader is aware that language is being presented to them, they're not paying attention to what's actually being said. They're paying attention to the presentation. So yeah, I don't use hyphens. Exactly.
And this goes back to another thing, a deeper conversation that for a topic I know we're going to address at some point too, where somebody says, "Well, wait a minute, you say not to do this or to do this." But yet, when I read the newspaper, it's like this, or when I read blueprints, it's like that, or when I read my social media on my screen, it's like this. The problem is, those aren't comics. Those aren't word balloons. And comics have their own rules of typography that have nothing to do with what you're seeing on social media, nothing to do with how words break in newspapers or magazines or books. It's got nothing to do with any of that. Comics has their own design rules, especially when it comes to typography and lettering. And so I'm an oval guy, not a squircle guy. I will write. I type those in word by word, and I put hard returns in, and then often I've got to rearrange it, take a hard return out, make one line longer, and then see how things snap into place and so forth so that it fits into an oval. I'm always trying to get that nice, like Dave said, that nice consistent interior margin. That's the same space all the way around that buffers the words from the word balloon that contains it. And then I'm always looking out for things that pop up all the time, like hoagie-shaped word balloons, right?
And describe what a hoagie shape is, because that can be visually really impairing.
It's the first way you know that you're talking to somebody in their opening days or opening years of doing a comic, right? It's a long horizontal word balloon, oval. It's usually got two somewhat long lines of type, and the interior margin on the top and the bottom is quite big, and the margins on the left and right are quite tight. And it looks like a hoagie, right? You got your bread on the top, the words are the meat in the middle, and your bread on the bottom, and they're not graceful. They're not.
And by the way, I just realized for international listeners, basically think of a hot dog shape or a submarine shape,
sandwich, you could call Philadelphia. We call them
submarine
hoagies.
Itself. But because hoagie's very regionally specific. So
and they waste space.
But anyway, Brad,
they waste space,
and it just looks weird. It is an unpleasant shape in comics, and so much of this comes down to, honestly, removing awareness that you're reading, removing awareness that you're looking at words. You want it to be. You want your lettering and your word balloon to disappear and the story to come forward, right? And so as soon as someone is aware of what is happening, and a hoagie shape, like a lot of the other things we've been talking about, makes someone aware that something feels wrong. As soon as that happens, you break the magic spell for the reader, right? And so another thing that also happens is, and I myself have been guilty of this many a times and try to fight this in most panels, is as soon as your word balloons start to appear not in the upper third, but in the middle third, and the worst sin of all, in the lowest third of the panel, people become aware that they are reading comics and they're no longer in your spell because the eye is being forced down to jump down to read, back up on the next panel to the upper third, back down to the lower third. And you're like, it becomes, it's a micro, not a microaggression. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a micro sin, but they add up, and it breaks the spell of the reader going through your comic.
Not only that, but sometimes they're going to hop over and miss those word balloons at the bottom of the panel entirely.
Yes, that does happen.
And then they got to go back and reread it, and then you've lost them.
And we know this because computer scientists have put eye trackers on people reading comics, and it both slows reading when the eye has to dart down to the lowest third, and there is a percentage of people, like Brad just said, that miss it completely. And we know this by computer eye tracking, that they just don't see it. Their eye doesn't go down to that lower third. So listen, have I made this sin? Absolutely. Has Brad made this sin? Absolutely. But once you become aware of it, it's like the crossbar eye rule. Once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. And then you try to work your ass off to never have your word balloons below the top third, you know. But anyway, I just want to say, Brad and I have had a deep dive on pro tips, and this is not the selling technique, but for Patreon folks, if you did not go and listen to that, I think it works out to be about an hour of us talking about lettering, about word balloons, about the presentation of word forms on a page, and how to try to keep weaving that spell so that someone doesn't get lost in the process rather than in the story. Those are two great pro tips to dive in over at patreon.com/comiclab.
It's way more than an hour because there's more pro tips that we also included in that collection. So there's a bunch of content.
Oh, that's right.
There.
That's right. Brad is a far better maintainer of Patreon than I am. He has put together, Brad has done a really excellent job of putting together these shared topics into sort of mega packs that you can grab as a Patreon.
And by the way,
so yes, absolutely go
Dave,
check that out.
it's okay if that was a promotion that you just did because it's our house. We're in our house, David.
See what he did?
David, we're in
Ladies
our
and
house.
gentlemen, this is why he's the greatest of all time. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be his sidekick.
Well, Dave, I've got one more question that I wanted to see if we can get through on today's show. And that, because it's kind of a general topic here for webcomics. It comes in from a Patreon backer at patreon.com/comiclab who says, I feel like a bad webcomic fan in that I'm just not reading a lot of webcomics with regularity. I see something once on social media or Reddit, I like it, and then I never see it again. It's like hearing a new song on the radio in the 90s and never knowing if you'll hear it again. So the question is, what are good ways to search for instead of stumble upon new webcomics? And if you like, what are you guys reading or newly enjoying?
This is a great question, and it's I was going to say it's a trap we all fall into, but here's the caveat that I will start with, which is life has us all busy. It's hard to do everything you can in life and create comics and actively be reading a lot of comics. So for a lot of times I find like I got too much stuff I need to make. I don't have time to go read a comic. You know what I mean? I've got to raise my family, and then I got to make the comics, and who's got time? But I will give you a couple of techniques that I use when I'm actively cool hunting, which is a little sort of mental frame that I put around something when I'm trying to find new and interesting things. So when I am cool hunting for new comics, what I will do is, for me, for Dave Kellett on Blue Sky, for example, or even on Reddit, but let's start with Blue Sky. There are cartoonists whose opinion I like and respect so much that I will go into their follows and see who they're following. What are the cartoonists that's catching their eye? What are they reading? These 5 or 10 cartoonists to me are the tastemakers for me personally in the Dave Kellett world, right? Like I think everything they do is great. So any opinions that they would have is something that I want to check out, right? So if Brad's got somebody he's following, I want to check out that work, right? And I'll go in. So very often, as a way of actively seeking out new work, if it's a Saturday and I've got a little extra time and I'm sitting on the couch with a coffee, that's a great time to go on a deep dive looking for new cartoonists. And so I'll seek out 5 or 10 cartoonists that I like, tastemakers that I like, and see who they're following. And, you know, you'll find out real quick, okay, that's a friend. Okay, that's clearly a relative. Okay, oh, here's a cartoonist. All right, I'm going to follow them. Or I'll check out their work. Here's another cartoonist. Oh, here's a graphic novelist. Oh, here's an illustrator. But you know what? I love their work. I'm going to check them out as well, you know. And you do the cool hunting that way. And a version of that I also do on the subreddit of comics, r/comics, which is I'll just search by time and look for popularity of like the last, month, last year, and see who's really been gravitating towards the top. Because for me, that's helpful because it's sort of crowdsourcing who's making interesting work. And it's not always a hit or miss. It's not always a hit. Sometimes it's a miss for Dave Kellett personally. But applying your own subjectivity on top of a crowdfunded list of the biggest bangers of the last 6 months or the biggest bangers of the last year can be a really helpful way to find new cartoonists. So those are 2 top of line ways that I do it, Brad. How do you go about doing it?
I got to be honest with you.
And first of all, do you read? Do you like me have trouble finding time to read a lot of webcomics?
Tons of trouble. And in fact, I the only way I've gotten better at it recently is that I've kind of I talked about this earlier. I've made kind of a more concerted effort to keep from doom scrolling at night. So anytime I can get my hands on printed comics or collections and things of that nature, I'm doing that and setting it next to my nightstand, next to my bed on the nightstand. So I read that before going to bed instead of doom scrolling. So I have gotten a little bit better at people that I've discovered on the web and then either jumped in on a Kickstarter or bought their stuff from their store, stuff like that. Or even if I was it was a Patreon backer and got a free ebook, I'll sit and scroll that and instead of scrolling social media. But I do generally try to keep the screen off. But no, this question is probably going to keep me up at night.
Oh no! How so?
It's distressing. It's distressing because
it's distressing. Oh no, ladies and gentlemen! Here's poor Brad Geiger. You know what you need, Brad? You need a single drop of water down the backside. That's what you need.
I need a single drop of something. It's got a higher proof than water, though. I guarantee you that. No, because so I picture our typical Comic Lab listener. And I assume that person is somebody doing webcomics, because why else would you listen to these two old farts unless you were a web cartoonist, right? And so I'm assuming that they're in webcomics and maybe have done more than like a few days of like past their first month, past their first year, right? Is when you're going to start to get interested. And what this person says is with this dewy-eyed wonder, I like something on social media and then I never see it again. And I'm going to stare at the ceiling, wondering if this is like just one person or if there's a whole lot of people like this. Because if you listened to the entire first 30 minutes of this show, the whole point of everything that I'm doing is that when you instead of sitting there in dewy-eyed wonder, wondering if it's going to be like the 1990s and listening to a song, you're here. Okay, I'm gonna here's what this person's.
This has flustered you so much.
My face is flush. It's driving me.
Brad, but it happens. It happens. I have had people who love my comic, have bought the books, and somehow have lost track of me. You know,
civilians. I will
but I'm
accept that as a civilian. The fact that a web cartoonist is asking us this question, because here's the thing: he's supposed to know, or she, whoever this is, they're supposed to know that when you like it, if you like it, you go over to the social media profile. Who are you? What do you do? Tell me why I should care. And then they either follow that person or become a free level Patreon backer or join the newsletter or bookmark their website or get their RSS feed. There's a web cartoonist is supposed to know this, and it's driving me crazy because it's bad enough that civilians don't know this, and we've got to do the outreach. But a web cartoonist should know. A web cartoonist should not stand there in wonder, having liked something, and wonder if they're ever going to see it again. You're supposed to know what to do next. You go to the profile next. When you like it in that moment, go to the profile and make sure that you either follow that person, subscribe, do one of the 100 things that you yourself are asking the civilians to do. And you'll see that comic again, and we take all the mystery out of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You subscribe to their mailing list, you check out their RSS feed, or you follow them on social media, and bada bing, bada boom, and you see it automatically. Their stuff continues to appear.
Social media.
But here's the thing, though. I'm less aggravated by this than you are because
easily aggravated.
It happens. You know why? Because I'm just so satisfied that water's not dripping down my backside anymore, that I'm happy with anything in life. No, but the truth is that life is busy. Entertainment is highly atomized right now. We're all wary about taking on new communication in our lives that are already swamped with communication. You know what I mean? Oh, come on. You know that's true. You get emails all day long that you don't want. You get phone calls all day long that you don't want. We're all apprehensive about welcoming into our life somebody new, right? And that's what you're doing when you're following an RSS feed or a mailing list or a social media thing. So it's not... I'm saying I fall into this trap too of like, if I really like it, I'll see it again because that'll mean I sort of let the universe decide for me, you know, like, oh, I like this cartoonist. They're really great. If I see them again and I need to see them 7 more times and then I'll follow them, you know, like that's kind of how I let the universe decide for me, but it's not, especially in a partially algorithmically driven world, it's not the best way to find what you truly want.
Right.
So that's why I tend to do once every 6 months or so, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, I'm going to see who, I don't know, Ryan North has been reading or Chris Straub has been reading, or, I'll go to cartoonists that I love. Oh, Danielle Corsetto's following this person. I'll follow them as well. I'll check them out. Cartoonists that I respect, I'll use them as my filter, in sort of a one and done Saturday afternoon. And I don't know, unlike you, I don't think that's unfair. When we get the sigh, gang, the world is so hard on Brad Geiger. It's so hard to be Brad Geiger. You don't understand the fools that he is surrounded by. There's such wisdom contained in one mortal coil, and that sigh expresses it all, just the pain and the hardship of having to walk through these days on this dusty earth with all these lesser beings of smaller intellect. Oh my God, it's so hard to be Brad Geiger.
I'm just going to put a button on everything you said, because that's the much nicer. I don't know how you say I want new comics, but I don't know how. I have trouble with that
because we live in an imperfect, atomized system of entertainment distribution. That's why.
Well, okay, but that being the case, okay, let me ask you this. And by the way, listen, question asker, Dave is right. We are now talking about Brad's personal mental blocks. What's easier to do? Do what I did and suggested, hey, next time you see something you like, take the extra step and go to social media, make sure you see more of it. What's easier to do, that or sit down and start pouring through? Not that it's a bad idea, but it's more labor intensive, where you said, I look at what these people are following and reading and stuff. That's very labor intensive. Whereas my system is so easy. Just when you see something you like, go over to their profile and make sure that you see more of it.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. I'm just saying, no, I'm not wrong. And or you're not wrong. I will also say the two that we didn't mention, you can go over to like gocomics.com and screen by popularity, and you'll always get Calvin and Hobbes, because it's always going to be Calvin and Hobbes. And you can go over to Webtoons and screen by popularity, and it's always going to be a romance manga, because that's the one thing they always seem to do well. So if you want those two specific things, if you want Calvin and Hobbes and you want a romance manga, you could go to those two sources.
Go
and
Comics
screen by
is the best way to find whatever version of Calvin and Hobbes you happen to be looking for.
Yeah, exactly. But rightly so. It's an amazing comic.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is using tastemakers and to a lesser extent using systems that crowdsource their editorial decisions, like a Webtoons or a Reddit. Or, you can also use the old tried and true method of, this publishing house seems to put out books that I love. There are webcomics that specifically go to certain kinds of publishers. You can do that sort of screening. But there are ways. I think once every 6 months you make an active choice and you go out and look for people, or you do what put upon Brad Geiger with his 4 times the size cranium of everyone else does, and you just click follow and you find somebody you like, and then you sigh anytime somebody doesn't do it that way.
All right, I want to leave this.
What was the Spider-Man / Hulk villain that had the giant cranium?
Was the leader. Actually, we've been watching.
The leader.
We were watching Invincible. And there's a big brain character there called Angstrom Levy. I'm kind of like
who's much better than the leader, by the way, as a character. I always liked Angstrom Levy as a character.
I was just going to make a mention that I'm clearly the Angstrom Levy of Comic Lab over here.
Yes, that's kind of what's happening. Yeah, it's the sigh that you gave at that one point. I want everyone to go back and listen. There was a pause, and I was just so put upon to be the Stephen Hawking of comics and to have to explain black holes to everyone else.
I wanted to end it on a positive note, but I couldn't let it go. So here, I'm going to end this whole conversation on a positive note. And this is not bullshit. I do this too. And actually, this brings me tons of joy. You're getting ready to laugh.
I am getting ready to laugh because I don't trust you. It's thrice bitten, fourth shy is what's happening there.
This is actually true. I will go to Kickstarter and I'll look for comics, especially the genres, the comics that I like. and I will support a Kickstarter at a low level, maybe if it's just the PDF or if it's a floppy comic or, a lot of times the graphic novels, they've got them, especially in a Kickstarter, they'll have them at a price point that's very affordable. And I will try to support a couple of Kickstarters every like maybe maybe one a month or once a couple of months or so. Not an exorbitant amount, but just a little. What's the word? A little frivolity, a little frivolous spending on my point, kind of like. There's a word for it.
Yeah, a little walking around money that you treat yourself with. Yeah.
Retail therapy, if you want to call it that.
It's like a coffee or a lipstick
just
that you buy for yourself.
That's a silly little thing for me.
$5 to $10 purchase.
And then I tune out. I stop paying attention to whatever the Kickstarter is, and then stuff will just show up at my studio, and it's like I'm sending surprise presents to myself. And then I've got something I can take home and put on the nightstand.
I just want to say, even Angstrom Levy has found a way to bring joy to his life by finding new comics.
It's.
And I want to thank you. Listen, on behalf of all the Invincible readers, I want to thank you for using the multiverse versions of yourself to deign to come on the show and share with us the way that you navigate the world, Angstrom. That was very nice of you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because about 10 minutes ago, another version of Brad Geiger has already said that you've been listening to Comic Lab, the show about making comics and making a living from comics.
Your hosts have been my delightfully humble friend, Brad Geiger, the editor of webcomics.com and the creator of Evil Inc. at evilcomic.com, and the ever wonderful host of the fantastic new drawing show that everyone is talking about over at wrongwayshow.com.
And my close personal friend, Dave Kellett, the co-director of the comics documentary Stripped and the cartoonist of Sheldon at sheldoncomics.com and Drive at drivecomic.com, and another one of the three wonderful co-hosts of the drawing show at wrongwayshow.com, along with Dave, me, Kevin McShane. I'm not sure when this show posts, but I gotta believe we've got another one coming out soon. Do go over and check that out. We have so much fun recording that show. I think you're going to like it.
And what's great is I think we're now 7 episodes in as of this airing, and we're really hitting the stride. Yeah. They're getting so dang fun to do. So do check us out over at wrongwayshow.com. We're incredibly proud of it, and we're enjoying the heck out of it, and we're sure that you will enjoy it as well. And I will say the Comic Lab theme song is used with permission from Andy Creighton at theworldrecord.net, and this episode was edited by the ever wonderful Matt Woodard of Woodsong Productions over at www.woodsong.media.
If you love Comic Lab, you can rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, and you may hear your review featured on a future episode. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, where we are burning up the podcast charts.
And Comic Lab is made possible by your support at patreon.com/Comic Lab. So I will go ahead and say that twice. Patreon.com/the weight of the world in Brad's size.
Oh my God.
It's hard being
just
Brad
click
Geiger.
The social media profile. Honest to Christ. My God. Oh my God. Dave, just to give you a thought to write out on, do you remember after everything you experienced under that orange tree, just think of this. Kickstarter, when they tried to compete with Patreon, had a name for their platform. Do you remember what it was?
No, what was
Drip.
it? Oh, that's right. The urologist's favorite website, Drip. I forgot about that. What a terrible name that was, Drip.
What a drip.
Oh, my God. Now it's my chance to do a Brad Geiger sigh.
Oh, I thought that was a different kind of sigh, like,
That was not my reaction to having cold water hit me on the crack at 9 a.m. in the morning in my backyard. That was not my reaction. It was very much more like,